Hi everyone, welcome to Formulations. My name is Marisa Bovers. I am the Director of Marketing here at ThoughtForm. ThoughtForm is a design and communication consultancy located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And today on the Formulations video, I'm going to talk to my colleague, Maeve Ruggieri. Maeve is a content strategist and overall branding expert here at ThoughtForm, and we're going to talk today a little bit about brand voice. Interesting. All right, Maeve, what is brand voice? Is there a standard definition? Do you have your own definition? Tell me, I've never heard of this before. What is this?
Well, brand voice is kind of like content strategy. There are a million different definitions, but the way that I like to think of brand voice is kind of like what you say and how you say it.
Okay.
Some brand voice definitions will just focus on the how you say it portion. So things like style and tone and whether or not you use serial commas. It's always a favorite topic of mine. All that kind of good stuff. But I think just as important is the what you say. So things like your point of view on certain topics and things like that. Having a strategy around all of that leads to a really cohesive brand voice that is kind of another way to mimic your brand's culture and another way to express that. And it's important to note that this is both spoken, so how your salespeople talk and how you talk to each other. Again,
how you answer the phone.
Exactly, a mimic of your culture, but also traditionally how you write.
Right, marketing copy, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Interesting. So, and we should say brand voice, it's a component of your overall brand strategy.
Correct, yeah.
So just like you have a logo or a tagline, you would have a brand voice documented as part of your guidelines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think the most common mistake you see brands making with their brand voice?
I would say setting and forgetting your brand voice.
Yeah.
Language is a living, breathing thing. Language in general, as we see that there are new kind of slang terms that come in.
They add new words to the dictionary every year.
The kids these days, they come up with new
terms. Dumpster fire just happened last week.
Yeah. So language is always evolving, and in that same way, the way that you speak about yourself and your brand should evolve as well, because your brand is always evolving. You're growing with new products. You have new leadership. Things are changing. Your market is changing. So kind of setting it in stone and never revisiting it is a big mistake in my book.
What do you think the balance of that with consistency is? Like, should I revisit it annually, not weekly, right?
Not weekly, and let me be clear. I'm definitely a proponent of rules. Rules have their place for sure.
Yeah.
So that guidelines can be enforceable and brand voice can be enforceable. It shouldn't be this kind of ephemeral thing that people don't really know how to execute.
Sure.
So it should be enforceable, but annually, taking a look annually isn't a bad thing. But every 2 years or so, having a nice kind of scrub, it's a good
a refresh.
Refresh. Good cleaning is always a good idea.
I like to see people do quarterly audits too. So not necessarily to revise the rules, but to just see how we're doing. Yeah. Are we actually following the rules that we set?
Exactly.
Or are we breaking them all over the place?
Kind of a compliance idea, and even small things that make a consistency difference in the long run. Do we use healthcare as one word or two words?
It can trickle away.
Small things, but it builds kind of consistency with your brand and can get away from you. So having that kind of quarterly audit to see how things are going and get things on your radar is a good approach.
Good.
Yeah.
So for all our listeners out there today, do you have one kind of concrete tip that you could give brand managers today to start improving their brand voice? Whether they have one documented or maybe they're just starting out, is there something you think everyone could take a look at?
I think if you have one already, in particular, if you're starting out as well, kind of giving power to your people is a really good way to get out the kinks, as well as to do some user testing. So not being afraid to get feedback from your teams. Again, I like some rules. I think they have a place. But if something's not working, being willing to get feedback back from your team to understand why, and what part of your voice doesn't seem to jive with them, what part of your team, and by team I mean the broad swaths of communicators within your organization, what's working, what isn't, and giving it to giving your guidelines to everyone to work with, to test, and not being kind of so focused on here's our final product and this is it, and now do it. Being willing to do some testing.
Set it and forget it thing.
Exactly.
Keep working on it.
Test it. Give it to your people. Yep. Take feedback and iterate. I think that's helpful.
So I feel like we've seen an explosion of focus on brand voice. It's maybe not a phrase you heard as much kind of 10 years ago, but with the rise of content marketing, with the rise of social media, people are just creating a lot more content. So there's been this kind of focus on brand voice. What do you see on the horizon? Do you think brand voice is going to continue to be important? Where do you think it's going to kind of go? What kind of trends do you think we're going to see?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to continue to be important, especially as a big trend that I don't really see going away is consumers being really focused on authenticity, and that having to play out in brands' voices and their interactions with consumers. And when I say authenticity, on one hand, that kind of the vision comes up of people in a coffee shop, and what does that mean? And it's kind of
a buzzword.
Buzzword, but to me that really means knowing who you are, but also knowing who you're not. So don't try and overcommit yourself with your voice. Don't try to be too cool, too stiff. Your voice should emulate your mission, your vision, your values, your culture. So if it's not, and there's a disconnect there, that's what you need to figure out. You want to be authentic in who you are and who you're not. So and consumers are really responding to that.
Continue to get in touch with who your company, who your brand really is, and then finding ways to represent that.
Yeah. And you might find that right now there's a big disconnect between your voice and who your company is, and that's a change management plan to get them to meet. You don't want to overnight have your voice completely change and kind of jar your consumers and the people that interact with you, because again, your voice should permeate not just your written materials, but also your spoken, interactions with consumers. So how your salespeople, talk to potential customers, how your executives talk to your other employees, and they should be practicing that brand voice as well.
Sure, absolutely, great. Well, Maeve, for our last question, so do you have a favorite brand voice, someone you just really love who's speaking kind of great language, or who you think is just really nailing brand voice in the market today?
I really love Airbnb. I think their mission and vision is really about creating community, and that permeates every single part of what they do. So through their brand voice, they just in the words that they pick, but also the content that they push out, whether they're resources to help hosts, be better hosts, or design resources for people who aren't even hosts, people like you and me, to create more accessible materials, things like that. They're really focused on community, and everything that they do pushes that forward. And
kind
I think
of reflects that.
I think they do a great job of that.
Oh, yeah, they do a great job. That's good. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Such a pleasure to get to chat a little bit about brand voice with you. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I hope you like this video. You can join us again next month when we're going to talk about innovation strategy management and how to use design, visualizations, and communication skills to improve innovation in your company. Thanks again, and we'll see you next month.